With the endless cycle of horror and stabbings and murder and bombings and car attacks and acid attacks, we can sometimes blot out some of the atrocities. So let's have a quick recap of the grisly death toll. In 2013, Lee Rigby was murdered by Michael Adebolajo and Michael Adebowale. After his murder, then Prime Minister David Cameron wanted to talk about the internet. Internet companies must do more, he said. This didn't help, and the attacks continued. In 2015, a man armed with a knife attacked 3 people at the Leytonstone tube station in East London. Mahayadeen Meyer was found guilty of attempted murder, but don't worry, it wasn't terror. He was mentally ill, you see. David Cameron was really pleased when some pleb shouted, "You ain't no Muslim, bruv," and that's what he wanted to talk about, but the attacks continued. In 2016, Tanveer Ahmed murdered Asad Shah in Glasgow. This blue-on-blue attack, which had nothing to do with us, seemed to be motivated by the fact that Ahmed didn't think Shah was a Muslim. Bruv. Angus Robertson of the SNP urged all party members to support campaigns against extremism. But shockingly, his empty words proved to be, well, empty. The attacks continued. This is the Parsons Green tube bomber and asylum seeker Ahmed Hassan, who was jailed for 34 years. He injured 51 people in his attack. Strangely enough, he'd been cooperating with the government's de-radicalisation programme called Prevent at the time. It didn't seem to work. I guess he wasn't a white lad attracted to Amelia. So ignore all the stabbings and bombings and the horror and look at white kids on the internet and fictional documentaries. After the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017, where 22 people were killed by Salman Abedi, it was reported that people spontaneously sang "Don't Look Back in Anger" as a symbol of unity and defiance against terror. Well, if you believe that, you're a see you next Tuesday. It was a Home Office plant trying to control the narrative. Brits, you see, get really rather angry when our children are blown to pieces and butchered by Libyans. But whatever happened, the song didn't work and the attacks continued. Sudesh Aman died in 2020. He was shot by armed officers after stabbing 2 people. After the attack, Boris Johnson said those in jail may lose the early release option. It hasn't stopped the attacks. Also in 2020, little Emily Grace Jones was stabbed to death by this bitch Eltiona Skana, an Albanian who had no business in the country, and she was jailed for only 10 years. Politicians were very quiet about this one, oddly reticent to run their mouths for once, but never fear. Apparently it's all the fault of the Greater Manchester Mental Health NHS Foundation Trust, and not the people who flung open our borders in the first place. Well, whatever was being done to improve mental health services since then, it didn't work because the butchery continues. In 2023, Barney Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were murdered by Valdo Calacone. Afterwards, Keir Starmer said there should be an inquiry. Whew, that's a relief. I guess that's fixed everything. He forgot, of course, that Calacone was born in Guinea-Bissau in West Africa and should never have been here in the first place. The attacks continued. In 2025, Jihad al-Shami, I think that name might have been a clue, who was born in Syria, killed Melvin Kravitz. Adrian Dolby also died, but it looks like he was accidentally shot by the cops who also killed al-Shami outside the synagogue. Keir Starmer stood with Manchester's Jewish community, but he didn't do much else, and the attacks continued. Young Mr. Jihad was on bail for a rape allegation at the time, so clearly the criminal justice system is taking this as seriously as the politicians, and the attacks continued. In November of 2025, Anthony Williams is alleged to have tried to murder 13 random people on a train from Cambridgeshire. Kemi Badenoch says, "We can't live like this," but she didn't have any idea how to stop it. I don't know why. This is horror enough for one lifetime, and I've barely scratched the surface. We didn't look at Axel Rudikabana, the Rwandan who murdered and butchered children. We didn't look at Vikram Dipshit, who murdered Henry Novak, or the recent Belfast, or the alleged Belfast attacker, the Sudanese Hadi Al-Adid. We didn't look at Safi Dawood, who murdered Wayne Broadhurst. We didn't cover the 7/7 bombings, or Ismail Abdul Rahman, Mukhtar Saeed Ibrahim, Yassin Omar, and Ramzi Mohammed, who tried exactly the same thing 2 weeks later. Nor did we cover Khairi Salada, who killed 3 gay men in Reading. We haven't covered the failed attack in the Liverpool Women's Hospital by Iraqi Imad El Sweilman, or the abortive attack on the Leeds Hospital by Mohammed Farouk. And perhaps we'd be wise to ask ourselves if these pricks have anything in common. And horrific as this is, the government is leaving us to it. We're acceptable casualties, the collateral damage they will tolerate in the great multicultural experiment. Well, I say enough. We cannot tolerate any more of this. Empty words won't do it. The Prevent programme won't do it. Holding hands and singing bloody songs won't do it. Demanding we're not divided won't do it. And saying, oh, it's mental illness, not terror, doesn't help. Above all, Starmer saying this is unacceptable is useless. This is not a one-off random occurrence. There's a clear and identifiable pattern, and unless we do something very radical, very different, and very soon, more of our children will die. So we must start a program of mass deportation. More or less everything else has been tried and everything else has failed. And you know there's only one political party with the willingness and the courage to do deportations on this scale, and you know who it is. If you've made it this far, you are the resistance. So please like, recommend, and subscribe to the channel.